speaker today is Rotary Foundation Trustee Dr. Julia D. Phelps. Dr. Phelps is retired from the Massachusetts Department of Education, where she served as the Associate Commissioner for Curriculum and Instruction. You have copies of her bio on the table, so I'm only going to highlight a few accomplishments. Julia joined the Rotary Club of Amesbury, Massachusetts in 1997 and served as the club president from 2001 to 2002. She has served in several positions at the district level, including District Governor of District 7390 from 2007 to 2008. In 2017, Julia was appointed as a trustee of our Rotary Foundation and is currently serving on the Foundation's Stewardship Committee and Executive Committee. Julia is the recipient of the Foundation's Citation of Meritorious Service, and Julia and her husband Steve are major donors and charter members of the Bequest Society. She is also a Paul Harris Society member. Please join me in giving a warm Rotary Club of York welcome to Dr. Julia D. Phelps. Before Julia speaks, we'd like to do a special Paul Harris presentation, so I ask that Courtney Bailey please come to the podium. Last week I did a presentation on how you can access your personal giving dashboard. And as I mentioned at that time, Courtney was responsible for putting together the PowerPoint presentation. And in appreciation for her assistance, I'm pleased to use some of my foundation recognition points to present Courtney with her Paul Harris Fellowship +1 pin.
Good afternoon. I'm checking out the clicker to make sure I understand how this works. Well, I'm really excited to be in York, PA. I've been here a little over 24 hours, and what I've discovered is York is the first of everything. Right? The first capital of the United States. Obviously, soon to be the largest first microbrewing tour capital of the United States. What else have I learned? What else was it the first of? There were lots of things that it was, and the 25th largest club in the world. It's remarkable, and I never knew these things prior to yesterday at noontime. So I'm really glad that I've been able to expand my horizons and be with you today. So District Governor John, District Governor-elect Patty, District Governor nominee John, past District Governor John, I mean, could we find another name, for goodness sakes? President Brian, thank goodness you're not a John. Past District Governors, Rotarians, guests, it really is an honor for me to be here today and to speak with you about the Rotary's second century of service. And I'm sure that all of you are aware that just last year, we completed, in 2017, we completed our first century of service. And that was a big celebration that we had that whole year and ended up celebrating in Atlanta. One man's vision, Arch Klump, and what he really saw as a need for Rotary to do something that would have a lasting impact. And I will tell you that idea, Patty and I today, as we were doing a little tour around the city, we were talking about dreams and ideas and things that we've had that other folks just didn't always get behind. And Arch Klump had some of that also. It took a number of years for that 2650 that started off to even begin to grow. It wasn't until really the death of Paul Harris that we saw the foundation begin to take off. So I'm really happy that it did take off. I'm really happy someone had a vision for what we could be, even when other folks didn't quite see that vision. So that first year, which we've just completed, of our second century, kind of looked like this. We had a goal of $360 million. That was our comprehensive goal. And that was the first year ever that we had pulled all of our money together, our endowment, our annual fund, the peace centers, the Bill and Melinda Gates, put everything together and came up with $360 million as our goal. And that was pretty risky to put that out there, especially after we'd had that very, very successful 100-year celebration. But I'm really happy to tell you that when we got the audited numbers, we raised $414.7 million. So that first year of our second century, when we got these audited numbers in Evanston in August at our trustee meeting, we were really excited about the fact that not only did we, succeed in reaching our goal, but we really did it and then some. To the point that we actually considered changing the goal for this year. And to give you kind of a little insight to what happens at a trustee meeting, so we're like, yeah, let's change the goal. Wouldn't that, we know we can do 400 million, let's change the goal. And every staff member was sitting along the edges of the room and somewhere at the table, looking down, shaking their heads. And finally, our Chief Philanthropic Officer, Eric Schmeling, said, before you get real excited about changing the goal, let me just tell you that every printed document we put out for Rotary this year has the goal of 380 million. So you really don't want to change it. So we were like, oh, okay. So we didn't change the goal, but we put the pressure on Gary Wong, who will be the chair of the trustees next year, that he might want to do a little more than 400 million. But we achieved that goal, and we were really excited about achieving that goal. And as I said, our goal this year, our comprehensive goal, is 380 million. And that breaks it down into the funds that we're looking for. We're looking for the annual fund. So when we talk about every Rotarian every year, we ask all of you to give at least $100. I know in this room there are many of you that give much more than $100 to our Rotary Foundation. But what we know is around the world, less than 20% of Rotarians give $100 a year. Now, when you talk about club giving, that's another story. It's about 85% of clubs around the world give. But when we talk about individual Rotarians, it's under 30%. So I think we've all got room to improve there. If you're one of those folks that gives to the Rotary Foundation every single year, thank you very much. It's because of you that we have this goal of $137 million, and I would hope that next year we can raise that goal and exceed it yet again. The endowment fund I'm going to talk a little bit more about in a few seconds. Polio, that $150 million includes the $100 million from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So $50 million for Rotarians, and the Pines for Polio kind of stole my thunder. I was going to talk about World Polio Day. Where'd you go? Where did our polio, our beer drinking guy go? Did he skip out on me already? He did. He's getting a head start on that beer tour. I know what's going on. Well, Pines for Polio, that's a perfect example of something that your district's doing to raise funds for polio. And again, every one of those beers, I don't think the beers will be matched 2-to-1, but the money raised from the consumption of those beers will be matched. And then, we have other gifts that come in that amounts to about $31.5 million, which gets us to our goal of 380. So that's our goal for this year, our comprehensive goal. Like all good organizations, we have our priorities, we have goals that we've set. And this year, our very first priority, this will not be a surprise to you, is the eradication of polio. And as I mentioned earlier, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation has been very generous. This is the second year of their pledge. For every $50 million that we raise, they will give us another $100 million. those are the kind of friends that we all like to have, Bill and Melinda Gates. You know, they trust us, they believe in what we're doing, and I've never met Bill personally. I have been in the room when he's delivered speeches. However, for those people that have met him personally, they will tell you that every interview, every time he has the opportunity to talk about what he and Melinda Gates Foundation are doing to eradicate polio, he talks about Rotary. I go around all over the place, all over the world, and people go, well, that Bill Gates, he takes all the credit. Well, I'm here to tell you he doesn't take all the credit. He always talks about, if it weren't for Rotary, we would not be where we are today. The reason the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is supporting polio eradication efforts is because we know Rotarians are going to get the job done. They were ahead of us. They had the vision. They had the drive to do this. We're late to the game. We do have a lot of money, and we're going to give it to Rotarians because we know they've got boots on the ground. They have a system in place to get this done. Now, he says all of that, but you know, that doesn't sell newspapers or make headlines. His name makes headlines. So, quite honestly, I'm okay if Rotary doesn't get that. I know firsthand that he supports us and that he trusts us. I will tell you, the first gift that they made to us in 2007, it arrived in Evanston. The money was in the bank before the signed memorandum was complete. That's the trust he has in us. That's the kind of friend that we want. So when you hear people grousing about Bill and Melinda Gates, just know that he's out there supporting us and advocating for us on our behalf. World Polio Day, this district is doing Pints for Polio, which is excellent. Actually, so where is Philadelphia? Is that like straight across that way? East? Which way? I'm total that one, okay. We are celebrating World Polio Day in Philadelphia at the College of Physicians, which I'm told is the first pediatric center in the world. I'm beginning to have suspects about this Pennsylvania connection here. But anyway, we're going to be at the College of Physicians in Philadelphia to do a live stream event on the 24th. It starts at 6:30 in the evening, and you can live stream it from a bar, from if there's a Pints for Polio event that night, from your home, from your club. It will be repeated, then it'll be saved, and it could be something that you show at a club meeting or a get-together or whatever. That evening, we will be celebrating the efforts that we've made, the gains that we've made. Honestly, I think many of us are disappointed that the number's 18 this year. We really thought that it was going to be single digits this year. But Afghanistan has had 14 cases of polio. Pakistan has had 4. The last update that we received from Mike McGovern, who is the chair of the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, is that they think that there's something happening with the cold chain in Afghanistan. So the World Health Organization, the CDC, Rotary International, UNICEF, and the Bill and Melinda Gates, we are investigating, we are working to find out what's happening in Afghanistan, because that number, we didn't expect that number to be where it is this year. So hopefully this time next year it will be single digits. The other thing that I want you to know as far as polio is concerned is that when we talk about polio eradication, for many years we've been focused on the number of wild polio cases, and that's 18. And I just brought that number up again today. For us to be certified as polio-free in the world, it's not only going to be about the number of wild cases, it's also going to be about the polio virus being found in the environmental samples. So I think everybody's done. Okay. So I wasn't aware of this until recently, but part of what our Rotary contributions are doing is we're creating this infrastructure all over the world where we can go and take environmental samples from sewage treatment plants, and they're able to see if the wild virus is in those sewage samples. The virus has a very short life that it can be dangerous, 5 days. So if it's there, we know that there's still the possibility, especially in places where they don't have clean water and sanitation facilities, for that virus to be spread. So that's why not only are we looking at the polio endemic, the cases of paralysis, but we're also looking at those environmental samples. So every week when I get the update, I not only look at the cases of paralysis, but I also look at how are we doing with those environmental samples, and that number is dropping. So that's really, really good news. I put this picture in here. So John was with me on this trip. And this was on Monday, which was a mop-up day, what they call a mop-up day. We had gone to these different stations around Delhi and administered the vaccine the day before. This was the polio mop-up day, and they took us to what I would call a slum. The folks that we were with said, well, no, we don't really take you to the slum, but it was close enough for me. We followed these two healthcare workers. They took us through this maze of buildings, back to the railroad track. Rotary pays for those healthcare workers. They paid for that yellow vest. They pay for the carrying case that keeps the vaccine cold. Followed these two healthcare workers through, and as we're walking through, I wasn't seeing any children. I wasn't seeing anybody out playing on this Monday, and I'm thinking, oh, well, thank goodness they're probably in school. Well, I was wrong. They weren't in school, but our healthcare workers knew this area inside and out. They had mapped it. They knew where the kids were. And as we walked through this area, the word was out. They're here. They're here to administer the polio drops. And as we turned around then and backtracked, kids, grandparents, parents began to pour out to us. I picked this picture because I want you to look at the father's face, and I want you to look at the brother's face. The baby's not real happy, you know. I mean, his cheeks are being pinched together, and this strange woman with red hair is putting something in his mouth. He's not happy, but look at that father. Look at that little brother. Look at the grins on their faces. This father presented his child to me. He did not know me from Adam or Eve. He didn't know me. But he knew I had on that yellow vest, and those of you that have heard me talk about that vest know that I think it's the most god-awful color ever invented, that neon yellow. But on that vest is the world with the child and 2 drops of polio. There's the Rotary wheel. There's Keep India Polio Free. There are all these announcements. Parents know that vest. And they know the person that wears that vest can be trusted. The person that's with those healthcare workers that are going through those side streets, they can be trusted. They can hand their child to a total stranger because we're Rotarians. Think about it. What organization would you give a total stranger your child? I hope Rotary's the answer, because that's exactly what that father did. Look at that little brother. He doesn't know what's going on. He just knows his father is happy. His father is smiling. Something good is happening. And look at that little boy. Now, you know, he probably wasn't the happiest kid that particular moment. But someday he will be happy, just like his little brother. Because you know what? We were able to deliver 2 drops of polio vaccine. We were able to save him from the chance of being paralyzed. What other organization can do that? I would contend none. We're the ones doing that. We're the ones that 32 years ago said we're going to do this. And had we known it was going to take all of this money and all of this time, we might not have embarked on this course, but we did, and we made a promise. And we're going to keep that promise until that number is 0. And that number is 0 for 3 years. Then the World Health Organization can declare the world polio free. And that's a day when all of us, every single one of us, need to be wearing our pins, need to be out there shouting from the rooftops that we are Rotarians and we are proud of that accomplishment. So that's what World Polio Day is all about. That's what Pints for Polio is all about, is raising money so we can finish the job that we started. Our first priority. Our second priority is we ask you to give to the Rotary Foundation, to our annual fund or to our endowment or peace centers. But you know, once you give that money, especially to the annual fund, we want that money spent. You know, I give my money every month to the Rotary Foundation. It goes right on that credit card and I get miles for it. It's great. And so I don't give it so it can sit at the Rotary Foundation. I give it so it can be used. I want that money used. I want it used for district grants. So whether that be, in our case, my own little club of 40 members, we do a district grant every year. Last year we bought $6,000 worth of equipment for an agency that deals with mothers who end up homeless for various reasons and their children. They needed some technology. We spent the $6,000. We got $3,000 of that back from our district grant, the way it works in my district. Global grants. We've sent scholars all over the world. A few years ago, we sent a scholar to the University of Edinburgh. She's come back to the Boston area and she started a not-for-profit organization called Art Lifting. And what she's doing is she is finding artists who were living under bridges and on the streets of Boston, but these people clearly have talent. She's bringing them in. She's figuring out a way that she can sell their artwork, and not one time for $400, but sell it over and over and over again as cell phone covers, as prints, as covers for bags. As a result of this one student, she's now expanded to multiple cities in the United States. And in Boston alone, 5 homeless people now have shelter and are off disability. That's one scholarship. Multiply that around the world. That's what a global grant can do. You can also give money to polio, which is, if you know, your district can make a decision to do that. You can also support the peace centers. There are lots of things you can do with those contributions. And so as trustees, we're encouraging districts and clubs to take advantage of multiplying your dollars and spending your district designated funds. So that's our second priority. I give this 2 examples that I've been personally, I know about in addition to the ones I just shared. We hosted a vocational training team for teaching of science when I was still working. I was the district foundation chair that year. And these 4 teachers from the Philippines came and spent a month with us. Now, as the Associate Commissioner for Curriculum and Instruction, this was like, yes, we want to do this. We want these teachers to learn how they can teach hands-on science in very, very poor parts of the Philippines. They spent a month with us. We spent 3 weeks with them providing professional development and teaching hundreds of teachers in the Philippines. I had the good fortune of following up with Jean. She's the young lady in the pink outfit and her 5th grade students. So this was 2 years ago, so these are now 7th graders. And seeing the excitement of these students doing experiments using everyday products that she had that she could ask parents to donate so that they could learn the concepts of science. This particular area of the Philippines was the lowest of the low in science achievement. And when they did the state exam 2 years later, these scores went, you know, from like this, to the point that the Department of Education in the Philippines said, what's going on? The 4 teachers that spent with us had gone back and were providing more professional development to their teachers. They've all been promoted to master teachers. They're growing, they're thriving. Again, that was a $50,000 vocational training team grant that's still having an impact today. And then down below, this was, I was just in Lagos, Nigeria about 2 weeks ago, and we went to this clinic where the Lagos, Nigeria club and 5 clubs from Italy worked together to provide a safe place for these mothers to have their children. And these were the young people that greeted us from the school. And I left Africa just like so many places in the world. There are folks that have so much, and then everybody else has so little. But these are people that are not asking for a handout. They're not asking for something that they're not willing to work for. They're the most generous people in spirit I have ever met. And I thought that would be hard to say after spending 2 weeks in India, but I'm telling you, these young people were just, I mean, they'd still be dancing for us if we had not stopped them. They love to dance, and it was great fun to be there with them. And our third priority is to build our Rotary endowment $2.025 billion by 2025. And that's a big number. I've actually been practicing saying that number because when I look at it, it's got a lot of zeros after it. But there's a reason why we've set this goal. Back in 2008, 2007, when we had an economy that was doing all kinds of crazy things, the Rotary Foundation actually had to stop matching grants in March. We didn't have any more money. We had spent the money that was allocated for that year. And as trustees, we've said, you know what, we never want that to happen again. We want to always be able to fund Rotarians' ideas for grants, district grants and global grants. So this is why we've set this goal. So the goal this year, the $61.5 million, we're looking for $26.5 in outright gifts. So, you know, if you've got a couple $100,000 that you're not sure what to do with, you know, you can talk to Tom or Patty or myself. John would be happy to talk with you about that. But I think, at least I'll speak for myself as a retired educator on a fixed income, I'm looking to the commitments side of this. So there's going to be a day when I'm no longer here. Patty assured me that none of us were getting out of here alive. So that was the conversation last night. We're all going to meet our maker at some point. So back in, I don't know, whatever year it was, the late 90s, I got this information from Rotary that they were starting a bequest society, and for $10,000 you could become a charter member. Well, I wasn't married at the time, and I didn't have to ask anybody, so I signed the card and sent it back. And the next thing I know, I'm getting a pen, and I'm getting this crystal, and I think, what is all this about? Well, I became a charter member of the Bequest Society. Now, since that time, my knowledge of the foundation has increased a little bit. That should make you feel better, that my knowledge has increased a little bit of the foundation. And so last 2 summers ago, my husband and I, Steve and I, said, you know what? Grandchildren are going to be set. They're going to get a little something. We told his kids, you're not getting anything. So, you know, the grandsons, yes. Children, no. But we said, you know, we want to have a lasting impact. We believe strongly in this organization. So we went to our estate planner and we said, you know, we want our trust to have Rotary in it in a significant way. And so we upped our bequest to what I would consider a more significant amount of money. To be part of, we're not part of this year's goal, but we're part of some goal down a few years ago. But again, to help us reach that $2.025 billion by 2025. So you may be sitting here and saying, well, that, Julia, that's a lot of numbers, that's a lot of money, it really doesn't impact me. But there's a role that all of us can play in our Rotary Foundation. And the first role is that you need to be aware of our perception outside of Rotary, of just who we are and what our foundation is. First of all, last year we were named the #1 fundraising foundation by the Association of Fundraising Professionals. They recognized us for our stewardship, for our efforts, the way we go about fundraising. We're at the top of the heap there. We're really good at this, you guys. Charity Navigator, I'm sure you've heard about the recognition we've received from them. For 10 years in a row, we've had 4-star rating on Charity Navigator. Only 1% of all charities that they rate in North America have received a 4-star rating for 10 consecutive years. That's something we should be proud of. That's something that should help us feel good about where we're giving our money to. And finally, something that many people may not know about is an organization called Peace Jam. It was organized by 14 past Peace Prize winners, and we received the award for Best Nonprofit Act this past year. And I had the honor of going to Monte Carlo to accept the award on behalf of Rotary. Now, it was a really quick trip, you guys. I know it sounds exotic, but it was a really quick trip. But I put this picture in here because the woman standing next to me in the white pants suit is Betty Williams. She won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1978 for her efforts in Belfast, Northern Ireland, for the conflict between the Catholics and the Protestants. She was a mom, and she paired up with another mom and said, you've got to stop killing our children. And for that, she won the Nobel, and she and the other woman won the Nobel Peace Prize. She's one of the Nobel laureates that are part of this Peace Jam. So I was really excited to meet her. They created a film about her called Contagious Courage. And so I was like so excited. I'm going to get to meet Betty Williams. Oh, this is so exciting. There was a whole conference with high school kids around their peace activities that they had been working on all year. She was giving them feedback. So I went up to her at lunch and I said, Betty, I'm Julia Phelps. I'm here from Rotary. I'm so excited to meet you. You know what she said to me? I'm a Paul Harris Fellow. Not, I'm a Peace Prize winner. Not anything else. She wanted to be associated with us. That's the power of our brand. That's the power of who we are and what we need to be celebrating in York, in this district, in this state, in this region, in the world. We are Rotarians. Our brand is really something special, really something to be proud of. We don't need to be hiding our light under the bushel. We need to be out there, shining it bright, telling people who we are and what we do. Not just around polio, but what we do in this community. We make a difference in York every single day. I know that. We make a difference in this district every single day. I know that. And that's what we need to be celebrating. We need for people to say, oh, I'm a Paul Harris Fellow, or, oh, I'm a Rotarian. That's our brand. That's who we are. I had the honor then of presenting, this plaque that I traveled halfway around the world to receive, to the Rotarians that were at the closing assembly in Toronto. President Ian was so excited. I said to him, I've got this plaque, do you want me just to take it to headquarters? He was like, no, I want you to bring it to Toronto so we can present it to Rotarians so they know that Peace Jam has recognized us. So these kinds of recognitions are the kinds of things we need to be talking about, we need to be sharing with our community, like, hey you guys, we're pretty good. We're pretty good, we're Rotarians, we've got a lot to offer. And so I want to just close with our vision statement, because for me, I think this sums up what my life in Rotary has been for the last 20 plus years. And I came to Rotary kind of not because I wanted to change the world. I came to Rotary because my superintendent of schools didn't want to be a member. And his quote was, will somebody join that damn Rotary Club so Brad Ford will get off my ass? I was a new administrator in the district. I didn't know that I was supposed to look down, that Steve asked this question every single year to the administrative team. I'm looking around going, who's going to join the Rotary Club? Well, here I am, 20 plus years later. And I thought, this is really great. The superintendent owes me. Because if I get in trouble, I could all say, well, hey, I go to Rotary every week for you, so. But what happened was, I saw the power of what we were doing, and it didn't start with the globe at first. It started in our local community. I saw the power of what this club of 40 was doing to help students, to help people that were hungry, that were people that were in dire need of whatever. I saw the power of us pulling together and making a difference in those people's lives. We were people of action before there was ever a people of action byline. And then I began to see what we did globally with our scholars. We have this university in our district. You might have heard of it, Harvard, MIT, Tufts. Those are all part of District 7930. And so I saw what we were doing around the globe. But then at one point I stepped back and I realized I was the one that had been changed. And that's what this organization is about. We think we're coming in to do something and it ends up changing us. And I think that's the power of who we are and what we are. So I want to ask all of you to continue being the inspiration this year. I know you will be. Thank you.